Hey there guys, Robert here, and welcome to episode 24 of Monthly Submission Rankings, where I rank tracks that you submit to me every single month. And for this episode, I'm going to be ranking your favorite and least favorite songs of 2023. 2023, what a rush this year has been. Like, damn, this year flew by so quickly that I felt as though I blinked and all of a sudden it's already 2024. While 2023 may have not been the best of years ever by any stretch, it really has been especially interesting for music in general. There's no doubt that throughout this year, there's been this huge tidal wave of great tracks after great tracks from both old and new artists. However, in the shadows of the amazing quality we've had throughout the fourth year of the 2020s decade, there were also some spectacularly bad songs that made for some of the most bizarre things that were ever penned to date. And I can safely say that your submissions were also interesting. A total of 18 people submitted to this episode. 2 people who submitted to just the worst list, 6 people who submitted to just the best list, and 10 people who submitted to both lists, resulting in 13 songs that were sent to me for the worst list, and 16 songs that were sent to me for the best list, which also resulted in a total of 29 songs mentioned in this video. Even though there were some bad songs that were sent to me because, of course, there were also a lot of really good songs that I've been sent my way as per usual, and I cannot wait to talk about all of them in this video. 3 songs were disqualified from this video, 2 submitted for the best list, and 1 submitted for the worst list. The first 2 songs I want to mention are the Montreal Children's Workshop's Jack Be Nimble and Hap Palmer's Baby Songs theme song. And the reason why these 2 were disqualified is simple. They were not released in 2023. And plus, I don't think anyone would find me talking about songs that are literally aimed for a baby demographic cool. One more song I want to mention that I ultimately decided to leave out the video more recently is Taylor Swift's Enchanted Taylor's version. I was originally going to include it in this video, but then I ultimately decided to disqualify it because in hindsight, I don't think it would feel right to talk about a 2023 re-recorded version of a song from 2010. And honestly, given that this episode is about songs that were actually made and released in 2023, yeah, I think this song would feel out of place here, so I left it off the list. It's still a good to great song though. As per usual, y'all know the deal. This ranking is just my own subjective opinion, and it's all based on how much I enjoyed or disliked these songs as a whole. I may not even agree with these rankings later at the end of the day, as they are not necessarily set in stone. Also, don't feel bad if your submission didn't do well. There's always next time. Don't take this very seriously, just sit back, relax, and enjoy my ramblings about music for a long duration of time. If you have any feedback for this series, whether it be positive or negative in a constructive way, feel free to leave it down in the comments. So yeah, I have nothing much to say. Now without any further ado, this is Monthly Submission Rankings, episode 24, your favorite and worst songs of 2023. Enjoy! Okay, so we're starting out with the worst list, and right off the bat, I just want to say that I usually don't like doing this much at all. I'd rather talk about the best music that truly defined this one hell of a year than to go into huge rants about how bad some of the worst music of the year can be. I'm turning 20 tomorrow, and I know for a fact that life is way too short to talk about the bad in this world, so I'm having a good acquaintance of mine manage the worst list for me. So this is your least favorite songs of 2023 as presented by this guy.
What's up motherfuckers, it's me Eric, the text-to-speech voice guy who is also a cheap ripoff of the wonky Angles text-speech voice guy. And today I'm going to be counting down what you guys thought were the crappiest songs of the year. Clearly Robert can't even be bothered to do this list because he is a lazy fuck who makes abysmal excuses and procrastinates all the time. Keep in mind that this ranking is also the most objectively correct ranking in the universe, and anyone who disagrees with it are big pink losers with no life. Also, Robert has to actually say something about these songs.
I'm sorry, what?
Otherwise that completely fails the purpose of making this video to begin with.
Okay, fine, but I don't really have much to say about them, so sure, go ahead.
Number 13. Flowers by Miley Cyrus.
Actually, I think this one is pretty good. I don't think it's a great song or anything, but I think this song has a pretty decent groove behind it, and Miley's vocals are pretty solid. At least it's better than anything on whatever the hell this thing was. Ugh.
Number 12. Columbia by Quavado.
Meh, this one's just your standard Decathlon song. It's alright, I guess.
Number 11. At Your Worst by Callum Scott.
Well, if it isn't the 2015 BGT finalist himself. Such a shame this one's boring, though.
Number 10. Skibidi Toilet Theme.
It's Skibbity Toilet. Need I say more? Also, prayers for Gen Alpha in the comments.
Number 9. Last Night by Morgan Wallen.
Yeah, there's much better country stuff out there. Go check out Jason Isbell's Weather Vanes or Zach Bryan's self-titled LP. Every song on those albums are much more enjoyable than this bland song.
Number 8. Sucker for Green by Lil Tay.
Girl wanna be Our Angels era grind so bad.
Number 7. Quake by Pink Lily.
Apparently the person who submitted this song told me that this is the French equivalent of guess what? Chicken butt. Yeah, I definitely needed to hear that in the song. Hooray! Also, they're apparently going for a joke here, but yeah, this song's lyrics do definitely mean absolutely nothing.
Number 6. Hooray by Smashing Pumpkins.
And speak of the devil, never thought the band behind 1979 was capable of churning out a shoddily put together song like this, but here we are. Anyways, pretty bad.
Number 5. CS by Lil Uzi Vert.
Oh, come on! Why you gotta do Chop Suey so dirty? I understand Lil Uzi Vert was just having fun and all, and this cover of theirs is nowhere near as bad as Machine Gun Kelly's live cover of Aerials, but yeah, this still sucks.
Number 4. Baby Don't Hurt Me by David Guetta, Anne-Marie, and Coilere.
David Guetta continuing to give middle fingers to old EDM classics, I see, turning the irresistibly catchy What Is Love by Hathaway into one of the most shallow and nothing dance songs of the decade. Before you know it, he'll start horribly interpolating a song like Cascades Every Time We Touch, and I won't be surprised if this becomes a reality in 2024. Like, I can see that happening.
Number 3. Jason and the Boogers by Jason Ross.
Yeah, I definitely need to hear a song about picking your nose until it bleeds. Joy.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Mother by Meghan Trainor.
I don't have anything else to add than 100 million other people have said already.
Number 1. Toxic Gossip Train by Colleen Ballinger.
I'm not going to beat around the bush with this one. This thing is just shameless. It's nothing more than 10 minutes of Miranda Sings herself sidestepping these serious allegations and just virtually saying, "Oh, now I want to do this because I'm so little and I'm cute and I can sing and I can play the ukulele and I have millions of subscribers on YouTube. Please forgive me, I'm definitely not playing the victim blaming game at all." What is there even to say about this toxic gaslighting waste of internet space? It's gross, disgusting, manipulative, insensitive, immature, unhinged, too long, unnecessary, boring, and more importantly, very removing of any accountability whatsoever. This does not deserve any more attention. And we're done with the worst list, so no more text-to-speech voice for the rest of the video. Anyways, until we meet again, Eric.
Until we meet again, bro. And remember, kids, don't be a lazy fuck like Robert.
Shut up. So now we're switching to the best list, and I once again have to reiterate that this is all just my opinion, and it's all based on how much I enjoyed your submissions as a whole. Don't take this seriously because we're here to have fun. Music's always a fun time, and of course, subjective. So yeah, now without any further ado, this is your favorite songs of 2023. Enjoy! Number 16, Shakira and Fuerza Regida, El Jefe. And we're starting the ranking off with the queen of Latin music herself, Shakira, who in this song is collaborating with American band of regional Mexican music, Fuerza Regida, which is an interesting collaboration if I do say so myself. But unfortunately, I don't think this is among her best work. Translated as The Boss in Spanish, this protest song lyrically criticizes social inequality and also bringing up issues such as the migration of Latin people to the United States, labor discrimination, and low-paid work. And yes, while I do respect the messaging behind this song as I feel like they are important issues to address, the instrumentation itself doesn't really do a whole lot for me on a personal level. While Shakira and Fuerza Regida do work off each other pretty well vocally, and the guitars and trumpets do sound solid, especially that trumpet melody towards the end, it doesn't give me a lot to latch onto outside of that. Overall though, despite my gripes with it, I still do think this song is actually okay. Regardless of this track's sparse interpretation, it's pretty clear that this regional Mexican sound that the track was going for works off Shakira's vibe pretty well. And given that the previous 4 episodes started out with either meh or bad songs, it's actually nice and refreshing to see myself actually talking about a song at the bottom of this list that is just okay. And who knows, maybe it'll grow on me to some degree, you never know. I'll just conclude this segment by saying that even though it isn't one of my favorite songs from her, especially since her collaboration with BZAC from earlier in the year was great, I'll definitely understand the people who do really love it given its relevant messaging. Number 15, Jack Black, Peaches. Seems like we can't go one episode without at least one meme song, can we? Jack Black, as we all know, is one of the most iconic actors around. having played Dewey Finn in School of Rock, Poe in the Kung Fu Panda franchise, and more recently, Bowser in the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Peaches is by far the most popular song from the movie, as it's obviously a song all about his love and obsession with Princess Peach. And even though I do kind of enjoy it as some sort of meme, I also do think that it's a decent song all on its own. It's not a song that I unironically think is great, sure, and it does kind of have its cons, like not being all that fleshed out throughout its 90-second runtime, and also having that generic Royal Road chord progression that's being used in a lot of Japanese music in particular, even though this song is definitely not Japanese, and I have nothing against that chord progression at all. But at the same time, there are things about it that I like. The thing that really makes this song reach meme status for me is Jack Black's passion and overacting throughout, as it not only shows that Bowser really cares about Peach that much, but Black singing at the chorus as well as at the end of the song is actually kind of hilarious. I still giggle a little bit at the beginning of the first verse where he's just like, Peach, you're so cool! I know what I'm about to say next is technically off topic from my discussion surrounding this song, but I also think that the live action music video to this song is also equally as funny too. I found it especially humorous when he's just straight up throwing a peach, because, you know, peaches. I don't know why that's funny to me, but it is. To sum up, even though I enjoy it more as a meme and less as a song I can take seriously, I think it all averages out to be a fine song to me. Number 14, The Rolling Stones, Angry. Moving right along, we have The Rolling Stones again, a band who I don't think needs that much of an introduction. This is somehow only the second time I've talked about them in this series, since the last time I talked about them was back in episode 20, which was on the third installment of Recommended Songs, where I talked about their 1969 song Midnight Rambler. But let's fast forward to, well, 2023, where they released their latest album, Hackney Diamonds. Yeah, they've actually released an album in 2023, which... okay. Angry is the opening track as well as the lead single on this album, and my thoughts aren't that too far removed from Midnight Rambler, which is to say that it's decent. It's not a song that changes my opinion on the band, but neither is it a huge standout in the grander scheme of their discography for me. That said, it does have its positives, as the anthemic instrumentation is pretty likable, and even though I'm not going to pretend that the lyrics are super deep or out of the box or anything like that, they do go along with the anthemic nature that this track is going for. On top of that, this song is kind of memorable at times, most notably the "Don't Get Angry With Me" lines in the verses, and the outro stands out in a good way even if it drags a tiny bit for me. Overall, not really a song that would be up for a lot of discussion from me, and I don't think it's their absolute best track in my opinion, but I think it's perfectly fine for what it is. If you're a fan of this band and it's somehow flew under your radar, feel free to check it out if you want. Number 13, I Am King, Discord. Now this is where we reach the properly good stuff. Continuing on our journey through the rock music express, we have Pennsylvania-based band I Am King, who I have very little familiarity with outside of their cover of Chantel's Impossible, which is a really good cover by the way. And one of their most recent songs, Discord, is also pretty good as well. The emotions that are being conveyed on this track aren't as potent as their Impossible cover, but they're definitely all still there on this one track of theirs. I really like the instrumentation on this one too, as it reminds me heavily of Fall Out Boy's Best Material, especially on the refrains, as the guitar riffs and drumming are also pretty solid too. And on top of it, the lead vocalist does a very good job with capturing the emotion of this song. And much like with Angry from the last segment, even though the lyricism behind it isn't too invigorating, it does go along with the instrumentation quite well. Although I do think the lyricism is at least a bit stronger than Angry as well. And I can definitely see why people would relate to them, especially with this set of lines in the chorus. And I'm tired of lying, you know me better than myself, you've been trying to let me in, oh what a fool I've been. All in all, there's not really much for me to comment on, and I don't think it's an absolute standout in the grander scheme of rock music, but I think this is a good song. Number 12, Avenged Sevenfold, Cosmic. So, how are we feeling about A7X these days? I suppose this is round 2 of me talking about this iconic Huntington Beach, California-based band, as I already talked about the title track from their 2010 album Nightmare back in episode 21, which was on your favorite album openers, and I thought it was great. However, unfortunately, I also made it no secret in that video that I really did not like their latest album, Life Is But a Dream, all that much. Insert booing here. Don't get me wrong, it's not offensively bad on the ears or anything, and I'll admit, I kind of did warm up to it a little bit over time, but man, their latest album as a whole was just very, very weird, and not in the best way. You know, I'm all for bands or artists taking artistic risks, and as long as the music is fine for what it is, I can definitely respect that. Still, this album felt to me like M Shadows and company came together and said, hey guys, let's try to make an album along the Mr. Bungle lines, and somehow make a worse and more unfocused and incoherent version of it. That said, if I had to pick a track that truly rises above the rest of the track listing for me by a significant margin, it would be Cosmic. To me, it's a nicely well-written song that, quote, takes the perspective of a dying person reassuring their lover that death will not separate them forever, and they will find each other and be together again in the afterlife or in a reincarnated life, end quote. I think those themes are demonstrated pretty well in this opening part of the song, especially with these first three lines. Fade from all that was before, we shut another door, but not a last goodbye. The reincarnated aspects of this track come into full force in the chorus, especially with the repetition of the line, there you'll find me, further reassuring the narrator's lover that they will always be there for them no matter what. Furthermore, the instrumentation on this track is actually tolerable, as the fairly somber first minute and a half is really well executed with its very sparse drums, electric piano chords, and guitars. And while we're on the subject of guitars though, the guitar solo that takes up around a minute or so is actually kind of fire regardless of the fact that I actually kind of felt the length of that part at times. My favorite part of this track though is at the 3:05 mark, where not only the tempo slows down, but also the key of the song changes from E minor to the parallel key of E major. And I find it to be the best part of both this track and also the whole album. I also like how the track just keeps intensifying and building up from this point onward before ending with some neat cellos. Nothing much more for me to add other than this track is very good, and by far the best song on the album for me. Such a shame the rest of the tracks on the album couldn't even live up to this track's quality, but it happens. Number 11, Clark, Silver Pet Crank. Next up is English electronic music producer Christopher Stephen Clark. Better known by the mononym Clark, he is known for his unique techno, classical, and ambient-infused styles, and he even has made music for television, films, and video games. In total, he has released 10 plus studio albums throughout the course of his 2-decade-long career, with his latest album, Cave Dog, being the one we're focusing on. Although I actually haven't listened to the album yet aside from, of course, Silver Pet Crank, because to be honest, I didn't even know that he released a new album only mere months after Susstock, which is still a solid album by the way. Anyways, after giving this track its first play out of context, I can confirm that this is very good too. It's not up to the quality of, say, his 2017 album Death Peak, and I don't think I have too many things to say about this track because of its fairly minimal progression, but it is a fun listen all things considered. The synths that ebb and flow throughout the track are very cool to listen to, and is it just me, or do the synths themselves sound eerily similar to the ones on Aphex Twin's Donkey Rhubarb? Anyways, other aspects of this track that I like include the IDM-esque percussion, the wow wow bass at the 108 mark, and Clark's vocals, especially at the end where they gel well with some nice dark and bassy ambient pads. This track is all around pretty nice from front to back, and even though I don't think it would be the absolute best place to start for anyone looking into Clark's music for the first time, I still recommend giving this a spin despite that, because this track is, again, very solid. Number 10, 50/50, Cupid. Now we're kicking the top 10 off with a big one, people. Anyways, it's been a bit since I last talked about some K-pop and MSR, and what a better way to return to that than by talking about one of the biggest hits of 2023, Cupid by the girl group 50/50. And yeah, as you can tell from what I said here, this is truly a great song in my opinion. Like seriously, TikTok got it right with this one. For starters, this is a great showcase of their growth and progression throughout the span of a year, going from when they first formed in 2022 to the release of this very song where they officially broke through. And second, let's not forget the elephant in the room. The disco pop and synth pop production on this song just sounds good in general. The synths sound really cool and nostalgic, especially when they're backed up by that chord progression. The vocals throughout are on point, every member delivers a lot of charisma and personality, the melodies across the song stick in my mind in a good way, and that catchy chorus will never get old for me. With that being said though, there are additional elements to this song that make this original version superior to the twin version. Like for example, the rap version between the second chorus and the bridge, you can't find that anywhere on the twin version. And that's kinda sad to me because that rap verse is so good. It really allows this track to have that level of oomph that I think the song really needed. The other reason why I think the original version is better than the twin version is because of that goddamn key change towards the end. Like, dude, that really sealed the deal for me. The fact that they decided to modulate the key up by a half step towards the end of this version is undeniably clever to me. You really just don't get shit like that too often in mainstream songs like this, don't you? But yeah, all in all, this is quite comfortably one of the best K-pop songs I've heard in recent memory, and one of my favorite hit songs of 2023. I'll admit, after the first listen I was just like, damn, I really enjoyed it more than I expected, huh? The only reason why it's not any higher than number 10 though is just due to a lot of personal overplay, but really though, that's just nitpicking a little bit. It doesn't really stop me from saying that I'm still on board with this one, and I recommend giving it a listen if you haven't already. Number 9. Frequent, Shrooby Tuesday. Capping off the bottom half of this list is Boulder, Colorado-based producer and upscale founder Frequent, whose music I surprisingly haven't listened to all that much aside from his really great 2017 album Dream Recall, as well as that one collaborative track he did with fellow upscale co-founder Hudson Lee called Reflex Angle, which is from Hudson's 2021 album of the same name. However, the one track from Frequent that I'm going to be talking about in this video is one of his most recent singles, Shrooby Tuesday, and I can confirm that after hearing it, it very much slaps across the board. I'm not gonna act like it's the best track I've heard that is done in this glitch hop kind of style, but it's certainly one of my favorites in this style in 2023. I think the world building on this one is stellar from head to toe, as the Aquarion melodies that begin and end the track sound really beautiful, and the build-ups and the way the drops pay off these build-ups remind me instantly of some of my favorite tracks off of Tipper's most recent album Marble Hunting, most notably tracks like Guilty Feet and Knee Pads due to its rather slower tempo. While we're on the topic of the build-ups though, the pads that accompany them are absolutely gorgeous. And the way the wobbly bass goes off in the drop while contrasting very well with some nice hard-hitting beats is headbanger worthy. That's what really sparked the Tipper comparisons to begin with, and that's obviously a good thing given all that I've said so far. And sweet lord, that second drop at the 245 mark is even better than the first one, as the bass line of that part sounds even more wobbly in the best way. I also love that fake out at the 308 mark too, it's a really nice touch. Also, the occasional sound effects like a random dude saying yeah as well as some car brakes really make this track much more enjoyable to listen to. This track is really well made all things considered, and it's overall just a really fun time. Great stuff. Anyways, we are now officially halfway through this ranking, and as per usual, things will only go up from here. And what a better way to start that off than with number 8, Stasis, Potions. From one fairly small name in electronic music to the next, we move on to Stasis, a German producer from Berlin whose music I haven't actually gotten into until the opening track off of their latest album, The Alchemist, was submitted to me. And yes, I did count The Alchemist as a full-length album on my year-end list, even though it does look like an EP on its face, but I digress. Potions is the track that's being tasked with opening up the album and setting the tone for what you're getting into, and yeah, in my opinion, it does really follow the assignment. Much like Shrooby Tuesday from the last segment, the world building on this one is insane. In fact, I think of this track in particular as a 10-minute epic that takes the absolute best qualities of Shrooby Tuesday and multiplies them by 10. I love the way this track starts with the sound of a door creaking, which to me is kind of like a fun reference to a part of the album cover where you see a silhouette going through a door and into a very strange world. It's all followed by some pulchritudinous ambient synth passages contrasting very well with some glitchy effects that all build up into this insane drop at the 211 mark, containing some dope-ass synths and a nice piano melody sprinkled throughout that part as well. I also love how nearly 4 minutes in goes for a more drum and bass approach, and the way the key changes 7 minutes in feels so subtle in all the right ways. Like, it's seriously clever. And then the track employs some more good melodies towards the end of this track as well, making for a nice transition into the next track. Overall, this track is fantastic from start to finish. The production is out of this world, the build-ups and drops are very well executed, and I just love the cinematic vibes I get from this track and how very immaculately well crafted and meticulously detailed this track is. Definitely my favorite off of The Alchemist. Number 7. Fredigan and Obung Jayar, Adore You. The last two segments saw coverage on some small names in EDM. So let's move on to someone who has definitely been popping off in the scene for over the past year or so. As you may know, Fred Gibson, aka Fredigan, is an English producer who went from being relatively behind the scenes, even being credited with working with people like Ed Sheeran, Shawn Mendes, Charli XCX, and many others, to starting his actual live series at the start of the 2020s, and ultimately getting a lot of popularity after he performed his Boiler Room set in London in 2022. Personally, I think all of that popularity is well deserved, since I think his actual live trilogy of albums are all great at best, and solid at the very least, with Actual Life 3 in particular making my 2022 year-end list. I also think that his USB EP, which came out the same year as Actual Life 3, is in my opinion, the best work he's done, featuring his finest ever bangers like Admitted You Don't Want To, Jungle, Rumble, and Turn On The Lights Again. But let's once again shift our attention to his most recent work, and to be honest, he's had a very interesting 2023. He worked on a solid collaborative ambient project with Brian Eno back in May of that year, and released some very good singles, with my favorite of these being one of his non-album singles, Adore You. Dedicated to Foret Again's sister and taking sampled vocals from the song I Wish It Was Me by Nigerian musician Obong, this is truly one of his best tracks yet, and also one of the most wholesome songs I've heard in 2023. Personally, I think the lyrics further intensify my enjoyment of this one, as they really do fit with this song's overall premise, especially with the lines on the refrain. When you pray, you're answered, you walk through life just like a dancer, if I had my way, every day would be your parade. On top of that, the minimal house production slaps across the board, as I feel it's eerily reminiscent of the sounds of Foret's 16 Oceans project, which makes sense since Foret himself actually helped co-produce this song, so shout out Foret. Just a little spoiler that you'll be seeing him later on in this list, but I digress. Furthermore, Obong vocal delivery is great, the blippy synths are really cool, the pianos are really well executed and fit well with the sort of production, and the Mouth Starts Movin' vocal sample from Prince Marky D has to be one of my favorite sample integrations of last year. It really allows the song to have that type of infectious energy to it in the best way possible, especially when it contrasts very well with this gnarly bass line nearly 2.5 minutes in. Truth be told, this is not just proof of Foret's undeniable talent. It's also a track that makes me want to go see him live someday, because this is another one of those tracks that would flawlessly go off in that kind of setting. While it may not be better than tracks like Admitted, Jungle, Delilah, or Clara, this one track of his is right up there as one of his best to date. Still love this one. Number 6. Colin Stetson, When We Were That We Wept for the Sea. After talking about 3 electronic tracks in a row, how about we switch into the more jazzy side of things? Colin Stetson is a Canadian-American musician based in Montreal, Quebec, who is known for working with artists like Tom Waits, Arcade Fire, Bon Iver, The Chemical Brothers, Tim Hecker, among others. He's also released 11 studio albums, and out of all of them, his latest album, When We Were That We Wept for the Sea, is what we're going to be taking a look at. As for what I think about it, I thought it was great enough to the point where it barely made my top 100 of 2023, which you should go check out, by the way. Out of all the albums in that video, though, I will admit that this is the one album that felt the most like it was running together a bit. But at the end of the day, it really didn't stop me from outright enjoying the open and spacious atmosphere on this thing, as well as admiring his virtuoso capabilities as an expert saxophonist. It's still a great record, all things considered, and certainly a highlight in jazz in 2023. With that being said though, the title track remains the best track of the bunch in my opinion for not only showing off his talent the best, but also for being the best demonstrator for what this album delivers. As the second track on When We Were That We Wept for the Sea, the title track helps the album out with truly kicking into high gear, featuring another helping of his very intricate and well-played saxophone licks contrasting superlatively with some very ethereal choir-like ambient pads that make this track alone sound unlike anything else I've heard in 2023, especially when it comes to jazz. This is like putting a band leader in charge of remaking albums like Selected Ambient Works Volume 2 or Harmony and Ultraviolet and somehow coming awfully close to the brilliance of both those albums combined. This is a stellar and immersive track from start to finish, and the fact that I haven't listened to his stuff outside of Stetson's collaboration with Tim Hecker, Monotony 2, is really a testament to how impressed I'm with it all around. Great stuff. Number 5. Foret, 3 drums. I mean, I did tell you that this guy would be showing up later on in this video, and well, here he is. Kieran Hebden, aka Foret, is an English electronic producer who came to prominence as a member of the post-rock band Fridge before establishing himself as a solo artist, releasing such classics as Pause, Rounds, There Is Love in You, Morning Evening, New Energy, and 16 Oceans, touching on genres like electronic jazz, minimal house, global trance, and more notably, folktronica. There's no doubt in my mind that Foret has been among the most interesting electronic artists out there, and certainly one of my personal favorites, as I love how diverse his discography can be when it comes to touching these aforementioned genres. And even if not every single one of his albums have stuck the landing, he still managed to come out with a lot of great music over the years. And his 2023 single 3 Drums is proof that he's still got it after all these years. In fact, I think this is absolutely one of his best solo tracks in a while. Stick up the track Unspoken from his Rounds album, but multiply the emotional nature of that track by 10 and make it as profoundly uplifting and atmospheric as possible, while also incorporating a bit of a Boards of Canada flair to it. That's essentially what you're getting with 3 drums. First off, the jazzy beat that kicks off the track is so sick, and bounces off some nice low-key synths that create such a relaxing vibe right out the gate. Second, I really love how as the first half of this track progresses, the synths keep building up and get more distorted in a comforting sounds by Muse sort of way. And the occasional flute melodies that pop into the mix are really just the cherry on top. I also love how this track finally starts to cool down from the 440 mark onwards, eventually only being left with some pretty female vocals and lush pads by the end of the track. Overall, this is another excellent addition to Kieran's already excellent discography under the Foret name that features a lot of my favorite aspects of his music in general. Beautiful track for sure. Number 4. Skrillex Zena featuring Naibarguti. Of course, a video on the best music of 2023 wouldn't be complete without one of the greatest comebacks ever. 2023 has been a pretty big year for EDM. And the main reason why that's the case is because of the fact that back in February 2023, nearly 9 years after his debut album Recess, world-famous and pioneering producer Skrillex released 2 albums back-to-back. Quest for Fire, which focused on house, garage, juke, and OG dubstep influences, a far cry from the brostep sounds on Recess, as well as his game-changing Scary Monsters and Night Sprites and Bangarang EPs, and Don't Get Too Close, a primarily emo rap and urban pop album, which isn't nearly as good as Quest for Fire. Honestly, Quest for Fire is the best of the two for not only how fun and engaging it sounds nearly all the way through, but also for the positive impact it has made for EDM since its release, even influencing many other albums that, quite frankly, would have made my top 100 of 2023 in retrospect, like ISOXO's Kids Gone Mad. And I think it goes without saying that Zena is definitely among the best tracks of the bunch, and it certainly falls into at least my top 10 favorite tracks from Skrillex overall. That's saying something. I mean, what is there even to say about this track that a lot of other people have already said? The Arabian atmosphere on this one is just spot on. And every single element of this track seems to flow like a spotless clean river without a single ounce of pollution to be found. Naibarguti's vocals are beautiful to listen to, and are a main part of why this track stands out in such a unique way. Also, the way it contrasts with a slow but plodding beat, some occasional bongos, and a random high-pitched instrument in the build-up just makes for such a succinct combination. And don't even get me started with these drops. Even though they did kind of catch me a little off guard on first listen, they are still what makes this track feel all the more special. Especially when it contrasts very well with a nice short bass line and some even more bongos that go all off this time, as well as some screaming vocal samples that fit well with the overall vibe. And let's not forget that final drop 3 minutes in, where it goes for a more house/trance approach, and it is just so much fun. Back when I first listened to this as it got released as a single, I was headbanging so much to this one drop like there was no tomorrow. Oh my god. And that ending 4 minutes in is so sinister that it even makes Kill Everybody and The Devil Stand have a run for their money. Those 2 tracks are still technically better, but still. To conclude this segment, this one continues to be one of my favorite tracks of 2023. And again, one of Sunny's best to date. The fact that there's only one track from this album that I think is better than this that I will be talking about in my top 3 really goes to show how fire Quest for Fire truly is. Excellent. Number 3, Patricia Texon. I'm not even gonna pronounce this one. And now we're back to the small names again. For those who don't know, Patricia Texon is an American electronic music producer from Santa Cruz, California, who is known for usually being very prolific, releasing 5 to 6 projects per year on average. Like, damn, that's like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard's levels of prolific. Anyways, I can pretty much say that I'm quite a bit of a fan of her music, as I really love how she is trying different concepts on almost every new album she puts out. In fact, she has already made appearances on all 3 of my year-end list videos so far, with Walks of Long appearing on my 2021 year-end list, Wax on the Welcome and Visiting Narcissa both making appearances on my 2022 year-end list, and Tech Talk 1 through 7 making my 2023 year-end list more recently. And yeah, I'm not kidding when I say that this is her longest project to date. As a collective, Tech Talk 1 through 7 clocks in at an astonishing 12 hours in length. Keep in mind that this is only a mere 4 hours longer than Outer's NTS sessions. And yet I feel as though that NTS sessions feel supremely inferior to this. I honestly don't know how Patty did it, but she managed to make an album that is on a larger scale than NTS, and somehow it turns out to be 100 times more superior by contrast. That's an Olympic achievement in and of itself. Churning out a project that would last half a day that would even make Sean Booth and Rob Brown have a run for their money. The key reason why I think Tech Talk 1 through 7 is a better project as a completely holistic experience is because while NTS Sessions felt like an 8-hour slog whose only purpose was to alter my perception of time, Tech Talk, on the other hand, felt more like it was telling a meaningful story to me, and doing so brilliantly without it feeling tedious beyond belief. A lot of the tracks on NTS meandered on for too long to the point where I felt ambivalent listening to it. Not really getting that much out of it aside from a bit of frustration by the last track. Like, seriously, stretching out Blade Wars out for nearly an hour is a lazy way to end your album. Meanwhile, nearly every track on Tech Talk has more of a personality than the majority on NTS. And despite each album in the series getting longer as it progresses, almost none of the tracks felt like they overstayed their welcome, and they all serve a purpose. And while we're on the topic of this project storyline, I love how the first 4 installments of Tech Talk start off relatively small in scale, and in a fairly lighthearted fashion, themed after feeling excitement, feeling curiosity, feeling unease, and feeling like myself. And then the two installments after that dive headfirst into the darker side of this series, with Tech Talk 5 being themed after feeling fear, and Tech Talk 6 being themed after feeling pain. To me, I see that sonic change of pace in between Tech Talk 1 through 4 and Tech Talk 5 to 6 as pure cleverness from my perspective. That said, Tech Talk 7 on the other hand ended the entire series of albums in a way that I did not anticipate or see coming. Being themed after feeling nothing, this final installment of Tech Talk is characterized by primarily being a straight up ambient drone record that, in a way, explores depression and the feelings of emptiness that can be felt when experiencing it. While the first 4 volumes showcase this sense of excitement and innocence she wishes she could go back to, and while the 5th and 6th volumes showcase the dark stuff she's been through that ultimately eradicated any form of innocence she once had, the 7th volume more or less sees her thinking about how she even got here to begin with. And that's what makes this volume in particular run very, very deep. And I think track 10 on Tech Talk 7 really summarizes this volume's themes the best from a lyrical perspective, despite the fact that it doesn't feel like it's an ambient drone piece unlike all the other tracks on the volume. Sure, the long build-up that matches the scope of the other tracks can feel a bit tedious at times, but I also love how it brings back the IDM percussion that was explored earlier in the series, representing that undeniable yearning for reliving the joy she had in the past, and it just feels so cinematic in a great way. Especially when these intricate arpeggiated melodies bounce off that rumbly bass as well as some Silver Side X pads really nicely. Also, I'm impressed that she even made NF sound actually tolerable. Well, what do you know? That's 2 things I'm impressed with here. First, I'm impressed that a 12-hour Patty Texon album is somehow better than an 8-hour Outercure album, and now I'm impressed with the fact that she can even take the rapping vocals from NF of all people, stick it onto this track, and it somehow doesn't even feel out of place here. Like, seriously. Theater Cat Eminem actually sounds really good over this really well made and stylized IDM production. That leaves only the lyrics I haven't touched on yet, and yeah, they are also written with absolute brilliance. Again, the lyrics on this track make track 10 be the best track in this volume when it comes to getting its messages about emptiness across, and I thought this one verse in the song really stuck out to me. So far, I'm penniless, found nothing in that sea I drowned in. Even the sand below won't show me any trace of those old spires. Oh, I tried, I can't deny, it was a venture and a half, and now I'm sopping wet, I'm dropping dead, I'm angry, and I'm tired. Another highlight in the lyrics is this verse. What am I now? Good question, I haven't any clue. I'm something, that's for sure. I think, therefore I am. I think the sea I know is full of terrible leviathans, but I've got the rest of time to make some land. I personally think the former verse kind of represents the emotions that are being felt throughout the whole series, while the latter verse's optimism is what really allows this song to stick the landing. I find it really admirable in this song how she went from feeling empty and nothing, as it were, to feeling like she is something. There may be a sense of unsuccessful attempts to return to the joy she once had, but at the end of the day, she is still moving forward in life. And that's what I find to be special about this 31-minute penultimate beast. Man, I've gone on for so long in this segment as it is. Honestly, I'm surprised that this segment is even longer than my Pink Maggot segment from the previous episode, but I'll leave it at this. This is excellent from front to back. Much like Waiting for Cousteau from episode 22, I can totally understand the gargantuan length of this thing is an immediate turnoff for you, but because there's so much to unpack here, even just by talking about what this album's all about, it truly makes for probably my favorite track in the whole Tech Talk series, and certainly in my top 3 favorite tracks in this video. Regardless of the many things I have to say about this one, only 2 tracks in this video are better than this one by a small margin. Let's see what these last 2 tracks are right now. Number 2, Skrillex, Leave Me Like This, featuring Bobby Raps. Going from one of the most prolific artists ever, we move on to Sunny again. Yep, Quest for Fire is so much of a great album that 2 songs from it wound up getting pushed for me to talk about. This album has so many amazing standouts like Rumble, Butterflies, Too Bizarre Juke, Still Here with the ones that I came with, and of course, Zena. However, when it comes to which track I enjoy the most, and when it comes to which track has the highest likelihood of me getting up and doing the most idiotic jigs in the world, my mind instantly turns to Leave Me Like This. I've come to this realization after listening to QFF countless times because not only is it fantastic from front to back, but also as the opening track on this amazing comeback album, it obviously does a great job acting as a tone setter for what to expect on the album. Much like Zena from earlier though, I don't think I have much to comment on that many other people have said already, but damn, this song is ridiculously catchy in the best way. And Bobby Raps in particular delivers a great vocal performance on here too. On top of that, the bass house production throughout is expected, on point, and well executed as well. Easily reminded me of my favorite moments from Joy Wright's 2020 album, Brave. Speaking of which, kudos to Joy Wright for co-producing this track. Also, let's not forget that sick bass line and the drops, and you can just imagine the amount of times I headbanged to this one too on first listen. And the build-ups are amazing too, as the melodies in those parts of the track are unforgettable and impeccably well crafted, especially at the 147 mark where they are backed up by some very pretty synth passages. I also love how Skrillex included the "oh my god" vocal sample from the title track to Scary Monsters and Night Sprites before the second drop, letting everyone know that even though we are a decade removed from the bro step silence we've all come to love him for, you're still listening to the same guy who made that track. And that's pretty much all I got for this one, really. Despite the fact that I talked about this track way less than the previous track, it does get a spot higher than my number 3 pick because while that Patricia Texon track is one of the tracks that came out in 2023 that resonated with me the most on a lyrical level, Leave Me Like This, on the other hand, is one of the tracks that came out in 2023 that made me feel like I wanted to get up and move the most. That, and I also have to be in the right mood to feel like listening to Patty's track in one sitting. I still imagine myself at a Skrillex concert one day where he plays this song and the bass making me feel like I'm having an earthquake inside my chest whenever I hear this track in its entirety. Not only that, but more than anything, I think it goes to show how mature Sunny's sound has become over the years, and it's great to see him still making music for all of us to enjoy, while also improving on his craft over time. But yeah, this track is, again, fantastic from beginning to end, and an absolute highlight for EDM in 2023. Still though, there's only one track left in this video that got to me a bit more on a personal level, and that one is... And finally, number 1, the Foo Fighters, The Teacher. Yeah, was it ever going to be anything else? Anyone who's watched my most recent Q&A in particular should already know my thoughts on these guys, but just in case you don't know, the Foo Fighters are my favorite non-electronic band of all time, and one of my favorite artists, period. While I can't say that they have the most perfect discography in the world, I can also say that the things I love about them the best is each of the members' chemistry between one another, as well as their well-written lyrics on the majority of their songs. And that's what makes a lot of their music have a very special soft spot for me, with The Color and the Shape and Wasting Light holding up as my top 2 favorite albums from the band overall. However, the album we're going to be delving into is what I consider to be my 3rd favorite album from the band, and that is their most recent album, But Here We Are. An album that is mostly dedicated to their longtime drummer Taylor Hawkins, who sadly passed away in 2022, as well as Dave Grohl's mother, who also passed away. This is one of their best albums in years. This is pretty much an album about loss and learning from it, and it explores these themes in such a clever way by means of figuratively talking to Hawkins in the afterlife. And in my opinion, I don't think there's a better track that demonstrates But Here We Are's messaging than the 10-minute epic, The Teacher. To my knowledge, this is their longest track to date, but man, do they really take advantage of these 10 minutes so gracefully or what. Before I talk about the lyrics though, I'll start with briefly talking about the song's interpretation this time, which is unreservedly masterful from the first second to the very last. I love how this alt-rock odyssey is seemingly divided up into 2 parts, the upbeat and energetic first half and the slower but still equally as potent second half. Furthermore, Dave Grohl delivers one of his greatest and most passionate vocal performances yet, and the drumming and guitars really do make sure that they cut through as much as the lyrics, and I swear to God, the ending where the song actually gets even more distorted is so tremendous, dude. Absolutely tremendous. And yeah, while on the topic of the lyrics, they are nothing short of powerful, as it explores Grohl's mind after dealing with these very huge losses in a very short time span. And even though his mother taught him many things, no one could ever teach on how to deal with grief, especially with a loss like this. The intro starts off with the repetition of "Who's at the Door Now?", which is to show that despite the song being a tribute to his mother, death and loss can be considered a powerful teacher too. And this alone causes him to ponder over who would be the next to leave the earth. Verse 1 is where this song falls squarely in the valley of timeless songwriting brilliance for me. As sun goes down, windows wide symbolizes the passage of time and the willingness to try new things. Meanwhile, the line following this, one step closer to the other side, is representative of approaching a significant change or transition. This verse sees Grohl feeling strong interpersonal ties, highlighting his compassionate nature while also expressing an absence of emotional self-control and the powerlessness to prevent specific events from occurring. And man, I can safely say that as someone who has lost his maternal grandfather to lung cancer a couple years ago, it gets really hard to control these overwhelming feelings of sadness upon first learning the news. In the chorus, the lines "Hey kid, what's the plan for tomorrow? Where will I wake up? Where will I wake up?" conveys a feeling of doubt and apprehension about the future, while also representing the quest for direction and significance in life and communicating a need for clarity and direction. The third verse, aka the last verse in the first part of the track, introduces imagery of stone, torn objects, and candles to symbolize the unavoidable difficulties and obstacles of this thing we call life, with the last line possibly suggesting the circle of life and the persistence of optimism after loss. Next, while the fourth verse that kicks the back half of the song into high gear is most likely referring to Dave losing his mother, this brand new chorus has what I consider to have one of the most resonant set of lyrics I've heard in any song released last year, as it greatly highlights the value of living in the moment and cherishing every breath, as it were. And Grohl's realization at this point is a poignant reminder to savor every moment while we still can. And finally, the repetition of goodbye in the outro represents the acceptance of the fact that life is not really permanent at all. And even though I sometimes would find Grebson songs abruptly stopping for little to no reason, it totally works here, because I feel as though it's a damn near perfect representation of the finality of life and how it can end almost instantaneously without you even realizing it. God, this is just like truly one of their best songs ever. And honestly, this can go toe-to-toe with even their classic material like Everlong, Times Like These, My Hero, Learn to Fly, Rope, and Walk. The lyrics of The Teacher may sound a bit cliche because death is kind of a fairly common trope in songs, don't quote me on this, but it's still true. As scary as this may sound, death is still something that we will unfortunately experience later on in our lives. And this song does a great job teaching all of us to keep on living, even in the face of a devastating loss like this. And as much as I enjoy all of the tracks on But Here We Are, when it comes to lyrics that can even make me shed a tear as time goes on, they can't really top this one. The Teacher is overall a spectacular masterpiece of the Foo Fighters catalog that is produced and written with so much love and sacred respect. From the moving instrumental to Dave Grohl's beyond passionate vocal performance to the incredibly relatable lyricism and messaging, this is truly in my top 5 favorite songs of 2023. And of course, this is an easy choice for my number 1 favorite song in this entire episode. And that was my ranking proper. Thanks to everyone who has submitted. It is greatly appreciated, and damn, despite the low quantity of songs that were sent to me, this was such a great batch of songs for me to review. Not even one song on the best list I thought was bad. Even my bottom 3 were only just okay and nothing more. And on the other hand, my number 13, 12, and 11 picks were definitely good, while my top 10 was at least great stuff. I just kind of wish that Times Mind Burn and Jeff Rosenstock's Future Is Done were sent to me, so that way I can go into great lengths as to why they are my top 2 favorite tracks of the year. But other than that, let's keep it up with the excellent quality, folks. The next episode, episode 25, will be on your favorite and least favorite albums of 2023. The links to the forums for episode 25 will be in the description down below and also in the pinned comments as per usual. And the forums will both be closing on Monday, January 15th, 2024 at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, I'm pretty much looking forward to seeing how many people will submit to this, because just as 2023 had a lot of good and bad songs, 2023 also had a lot of good and bad albums as well. So, like usual, I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys sent to me for this one. Also, I do greatly apologize for not getting this episode out on time for December. A lot of stuff like college finals, my procrastination habits, and celebrating the holidays got in the way with scripting this episode for me, so I'm hoping to get episode 25 out by the end of this month to make up for this, but we'll see how things play out. So yeah, submit to the forums if you're interested, links in the description, pinned comments. But yeah, we've made it to the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a like. Share this one with your friends if you want to, and leave a comment down below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe as we're on the road to 9,000 subscribers. That's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye, guys.